I always say I grew up when I was 38.
Wow.
At what point do men become men, and where do they get the approval of their elders to say, you buddy, you passed it? Most men can't name a best friend or even a good friend, like over 50% of men. That's where I was. And I had Taco Mike. That was my only dude, you know. That was the only dude I would ever talk about anything with. And I didn't take advantage of that even as much as I could have. I just didn't know the value of it.
Yeah.
And so after a little bit of pain in life, you know, divorce and struggling with addiction and some of that stuff, I realized, you know, I have some social needs too. And I started learning more about the significance of that just in the history of humans and, you know, our tribal nature and all that stuff. And so I started realizing men are alone. I'm going to see if I can get a few hundred guys together and connect them somehow.
If you're a man that controls his own destiny, a man that is always in the pursuit of being better, you are in the right place. You are responsible. You are strong. You are a leader. You are a force for good. Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.
Welcome back to the Alpha Quorum Show. Brad Singletary here. I'm here with my buddy Dave Schofield. Some of you know him. He is a pretty popular dude. He was the 2022 Alpha Quorum Man of the Year, and he's just continued to do cool things. If you follow him on social media, if you're a friend of Dave's, you'll just know this is a high quality dude right here. Glad to have you back. He drove like an hour to get here. So thanks for doing that on a Sunday night, man. How you been, brother?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, dude. You got some good, we vibe well together, I think. So it's good to have that like familiar energy around. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What have you been up to, man? Catch us up. We haven't talked since December, I think it was.
I don't know. We've gotten my daughter my oldest daughter, into some racing. So we got her a race car.
Little go-kart type deal, or?
Yeah, what
do you call that?
It's a quarter midget.
Quarter midget.
Yeah, quarter midget race car. It's got a little 120 Honda motor in it, and yeah, she can start racing in October when she turns 5. So she's only 4 years old. She's driven it a little bit, but
how's she do? How's she like it?
She loves it. Yeah, she loves it. So.
Well, you got her all sported out, man. She looks cool in her get up and everything. She's got a little like black and pink. It's just cool looking.
Yeah, she's decked out. I don't know. You got to feel the part, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Let her feel cool. So it is cool.
She seems like she enjoys it a lot just from the pictures and videos you posted, man.
Yeah, she's loving it.
It's pretty cool. These are going to be some tough girls you have, man. They're going to be.
I hope so.
So Dave brought down some cool wireless mics. So if the sound on this one happens to be particularly good, that's all Sco's fault for bringing us some cool gadgets in here, man.
I haven't messed with them at all, so it's probably your mics that are sounding
Let's hope it works good, right?
Yeah.
What are things that have been on your mind lately as far as the world of men and just what you notice about your own growth? And
catch me off guard there. I wasn't ready for that.
So I don't know. You just did another car show. That was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
The seniors place over there. That looked like you had like 4 or 5 times the number of cars from last year.
Yeah, we probably had 40 people come out.
That is freaking awesome.
Really badass cars.
Serious hot rods and stuff, man.
Yeah, for all the seniors to come hang out. And I had a couple stories from guys talking about, you know, back seats, a couple of those cars. So it was fun for them.
Reminisce a little bit about.
Yeah. Had a couple ladies get to go take rides in cars that they always want to take a ride in. It was a really awesome experience for everyone.
So did you have any guys from the Alpha Quorum help out again? I know you had last year, there was somebody who participated with you.
Yeah, there were a couple of people showed up. We had Mike Spurgeon showed up.
And Taco Mike.
Yeah, he talked with a couple of the residents and just kind of made some jokes and had some fun with them. We had Nathan out there again.
Okay.
Walking around. really a lot of the residents need help kind of walking around. When you fill up an entire parking lot with cars, and some of these guys are in wheelchairs, and so yeah, so we help them scoot around and look at stuff, take pictures for them, that kind of stuff. So Nathan was helping with that, and then my buddy Corey was also there helping walk people around and talk about stuff. And cool.
I think it's cool to be around old people, it just, especially, toward the end of life and stuff, like maybe these guys in these assisted living centers or whatever. It makes me think about just, how short life really is. And they probably look at some guys like us and think we've got all this time and all this opportunity, and they probably wish they were our age again. It's got to make you reflect on life a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Funny thing about that whole group, something that I've experienced through it. So there's been some real cool stuff. So we do a monthly men's group there, and there's been some cool stuff that comes out of that, just talking with these guys and hearing about the history of their lives. Some of them being, one of them is a World War II vet that flew a dive bomb plane bombing Nazi submarines and stuff from the sky, like doing wild stuff.
Wow.
And so that's like talking about their past, and then we start talking about their interests and stuff. And one of the things that has happened recently, so I actually came to the Facebook page and asked for some questions. What are some things that you would ask this group of guys, basically? And there's a lot of like deeper questions, that we, myself and other men in this group, would like to hear from someone with more wisdom and age and experience in life. And so I went into this men's group meeting with them with an expectation in my mind that these guys were going to get deep about life, and, they're just going to like spill it all out for me, and I started hitting them with some questions, and I was really taken back by, first of all, it didn't get deep like I thought it was going to get deep.
Mm-hmm.
But it took so one of the main questions was what's something that you did in your life that you can look back on and you're really, really proud of? Like something that you took pride in that you still remember today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had five guys in the group that day. Every single one of them had something to say about something they did in their work, like at their job.
Wow. And
that, I don't know, that threw me for a loop. That kind of had me thinking, because I was expecting things like, like kids,
grandchildren, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like anything but work. Right. but I guess with that, it just got me thinking about how much time every one of us is spending at work, and what a huge part of our life work is. We all do it for a reason, and that's to provide and take care of ourselves and our family. But I think it's just from that experience, it's something that's deeper than that too. We grow and work and progress, and a lot of us get to do some cool stuff. So I don't know. It was something that I was not expecting at all out of that meeting with them. And I think I got something out of it that was pretty cool.
That's way cool, man. I think about, I'm probably a workaholic. And I remember, my dad used to quote this stuff about, you never saw anybody's tombstone that said, only if I'd spent more time at work or whatever. But at the same time, something that I'm really feeling a lot more in the last year or two is just, it's about purpose. And I think the purpose of a man, the purpose of a father and a husband anyway, is to work. I mean, it's maybe more important than anything else. It's whatever the mission that you have in your heart, or the thing that you're, whatever that purpose is. And for so much of men's lives, it is about provision and, taking care of their people. And so it's interesting, the the two sides of that thought you're talking about. Like, yeah, that's a lot. We spend so much time in our work, maybe too much. But at the same time, I think it's also a valuable part of our like duty as men.
Right. And it provides us the ability to do the things outside of work that we want to do with our family, and all the trips or hanging out, or like the race car thing. We can't afford to get my daughter into racing if I'm not working,
Yeah.
So
I was thinking about that, seeing all those cool little gadgets and toys with it. I was like, that's an expensive little hobby, I'm sure.
You know what? I've got a I don't know if anybody wants me to say names or anything, but I've had a lot of help already. There's been some sponsorships.
Nice.
For Jade, because people are just stoked to see a little kid, getting into something and enjoying it, I think. So,
dude, some of those pictures you post, I'm like, that's freaking, what's her name? Danica Pat. This is she could be famous one day, and this is her beginning. It was kind of cool to see this.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
I bet she'll be competitive, and
yeah.
That's awesome.
But.
So what else has been going on in your world, man? What kind of thoughts you've been mulling around? And
so, I don't know. Today, I think I really wanted to dive into some questions with you.
Okay.
Questions for you. And there's something, at least for me, being asked to come talk about yourself and let people know things about you. And it can be an awkward thing, and I wanted to put you in those shoes.
Oh shit.
But no, I think it'd be really cool for myself and everybody that listens to this to know who Brad is, other than, the voice, but because on here, you get into a lot of deep stuff, and you tell on yourself a lot, and people got a pretty good idea of who you are. But I think it'd be really, really cool for everybody, including myself, to dive more into who you are. I'd like to be able to do that.
Talk about uncomfortable. I'm a professional listener. I don't like to talk about myself.
Yeah.
All right, I'm game, man. Yeah.
All right. I've got some.
Oh shoot, he got a list. He got the notes app going on his phone.
I do. Yeah, that's the way to go. All right. So let's see. There's a couple talking points. I don't really want to do I wouldn't want it to be like a real Q&A, just kind of some conversational talking points, I guess.
Okay.
So I guess we could start out with some history on you, like where you come from and all that kind of good stuff. So, where did you grow up, and what are some key memories you have of your life as a teen or young man that helped shape who you are now?
So I grew up in Florida, in North Florida. So it's kind of the redneck part. It's not the glamorous beaches and all that. This is like picture, Southern Alabama, Southern Georgia, or like Alabama. That movie Sweet Home Alabama, kind of
nice.
Bobby Boucher. What's the other one? The Water Boy. That's kind of, swampy. It's a small town. I grew up in a double-wide trailer on 4 acres.
Wow.
So that's like, there's plenty of space, but everybody lives pretty simple, at least everybody on my street. On my street was my grandparents, and then us, and then the uncle, and then the uncle, and then the aunt. So all of my mom's siblings had property all on the same street.
That's super cool.
It was very cool. So, we just knew who was coming home from work, and, you just knew what was going on with your family members, and you were their neighbor if you had to go there. So that was pretty special, I think, for me. I didn't realize it until I moved out here away from everybody.
Yeah.
But the value of just family being around, all good people. I guess some of the experiences that shaped me. So we were crabbers. We had a crabbing boat.
That's awesome.
And I think that was mostly out of just necessity, the jobs or whatever. My dad had done some different things, high level stuff, truck driving, all kinds of different jobs. And one year he bought a boat, and he said, we're gonna catch blue crabs.
Was that like do you remember that being like a spur of like, is that something he planned for a while, saved up, and he was like, you know what,
I mean, I don't think so. There's a lot of fishermen there, so they have fishing boats and they're catching like mullet and different kinds of fish down there in the Gulf of Mexico. But they, to me, it was a surprise. It was just like one day we were going to pick up a boat, and then we were painting our license number on the buoys. You know, we had to do this 500 times or whatever.
Oh,
so we're actually burning with a soldering iron into this like styrofoam buoy. And
okay.
so that floats on the water and it's painted orange was our color. Everybody has a different like color code and then a number. So we just started doing that. And then before long, we were getting up at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. and going to the fish market to buy bait, just boxes of frozen like shad.
Yeah.
And then we would go out on the boat for several hours it seemed to take. And then we ate seafood almost every night just because it was like, hey, we got fresh crabs and a couple different kinds of fish. Let's eat that. So it was pretty cool to eat that pretty much every day. Maybe that's why my brain is so good and healthy. I'm all that omega-3. So that was meaningful. And then, you know, I would have to say 2 other things would be scouting. So I was in a pretty solid like Boy Scouts of America troop that was it was sponsored by the Elks Lodge in our town. And it was just, I mean, once a month, every month for years, we went on a couple overnight trips. And so we might go an hour away or 6 hours away, but we would stay in then summer camps every year. And it was just getting away from home, learning how to, build fires and lash things together with wood and just all the different kind of like outdoor survival type stuff. I kind of took that seriously. I was the guy that always had the uniform set up, and I at one point thought from my love for scouting that I thought I would love to be in the military. And everybody was telling me I should go for the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty competitive, like you got to be a stud student to be able to do that. So that was an ambition that I kind of have regrets over, but I wish I just would have enlisted or done like ROTC or something like that. But so scouting and then sports. I played football, baseball, and I was on the weightlifting team and ran track for a couple of years. So just the competitive nature of, trying to improve your game, trying to get better at what you do and get the starting position or whatever. And then, that's a very tribal feel. So if you like in high school sports, you're spending 5 days a week with your dudes, like pretty much 5 days a week practicing. And then even sometimes on the weekends, we would come in and watch film. So that was, I was around a lot of good dudes, guys my age and then older men in my family. But those are some of the key things I think for me that help shape who I am.
That makes complete sense because every one of those things is very much you've got a group of guys that you're going out and you're doing stuff and it translates into exactly what you're trying to accomplish with this whole thing with Alpha Quorum. Do you think that the creation or the thought process behind your goals and where you want the Alpha Quorum to go maybe stems from as an adult, as a man, like as a kid and in high school and whatnot, you have these programs that it's easy to be a part of. And I think as an adult, there's not as many opportunities like that. So do you think that's maybe part of, cause you've had those, all growing up, and I think I remember you saying something about playing football in college too.
Yeah. So I probably stopped all that at about the age of maybe 23. I wasn't involved in any team or any kind of grouping like that. I served a mission for my church too. That was another being around a bunch of good dudes, and just learning from them. And so by the time I was 23, there was nothing. And I was married at the time and, 10, 11 years into that, and it was falling apart. As it almost always does with every marriage, 10-year mark is kind of a place where it bottoms out. So it was bottoming out. And I didn't have not one dude, even my own brothers, my dad, my uncles. I would just thought the role of a man was to, figure it out, but alone. And so I'm making my best judgments and they were shitty.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that definitely led me to some of this stuff. Just having been around that some as a kid, then not having that as an adult. I think I was watching a TED talk one time where it said, most men can't name a best friend or even a good friend, like over 50% of men.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. And I had Taco Mike. That was my only dude, that was the only dude I would ever talk about anything with. And I didn't take advantage of that even as much as I could have. He would want to take me out to lunch or meet up or whatever. And it was just always seemed like I just didn't know the value of it.
Yeah.
And so after a little bit of pain in life, divorce and struggling with addiction and some of that stuff, I realized, I have some social needs too. And I started learning more about the significance of that just in the history of humans and, our tribal nature and all that stuff. And so I started realizing men are alone. I'm going to see if I can get a few hundred guys together and connect them somehow.
That's yeah, that makes sense. It all kind of adds up from where you were to where you're at now. It's super cool. Well, you were talking about the Navy Academy and military and stuff like that. Why is it you think you regret not doing that?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, I love uniformity, that's one thing I loved about sports and stuff. And in college, it was even better because even on practice days, everybody's wearing the same shorts. I love that uniformity, the team feeling, the unity of that. And of course, patriot, I just love my country and would love to have served and stuff. But to me, it's just it's the only rite of passage type of thing left, I think, for men. There's military, I think first responders kind of fall into that, some of that stuff, but there's really nothing else that's kind of primal, and I know there's a lot of jobs in the military that aren't primal, but just the process, just the, getting through something difficult and doing things you don't want to do and learning how to kind of forget yourself and get to work. That's what I would have loved, the discipline of it, I think.
Yeah. That's one thing I've always kind of wanted to talk to you about. And I think you've talked about it in previous shows, but you just mentioned like a rite of passage and how there really isn't so much of that anymore. Used to have, way back, right? There's like in tribal communities, Native Americans and whatnot, they have like real wild rite of passage stuff. And that's not really existent anymore. What kind of, what role do you think that is playing in the kind of, I guess, the quality of men that are being brought up now?
I think it's been brutal to our development that we don't have anything like that. So, if you can, probably maybe 200 years ago, there were things like that happening, and it maybe even not that long ago. There were things that were more common, the first hunt or the first whatever, or there's some excursion that they would, send the guy on out alone or whatever. So for women, girls become women on a particular day, and there's the maturing and all that they have to do through adulthood, but they change in one day. It happens yesterday, it wasn't, and today it's there. The menstrual cycle begins. And so that's an important passage for them. Well, men never had anything because men don't have that biological process. There were these rituals and things that were done in ages past. So the fact that we don't do anything like that, it's crazy. The closest thing I ever had, a couple things. One was when I killed my first deer, and then as part of the Boy Scouts, I was in the Order of the Arrow. It was kind of the honor society for scouters. And so, that one of the things we did was called the ordeal, which is where you go off on the weekend and you get almost no food. You sleep on a sleeping bag in the middle of nowhere alone. And then the next day, before daylight, it seems like they come around to pick you up, and then you're doing service all day, like working on the scout reservation or whatever.
Are you doing that with other guys?
Other scouts, yeah. And you can't talk all day. And there's all these kind of rules that it was trippy, man. It was like sleeping in the mosquitoes. Breakfast was one boiled egg. Lunch was like a half of an orange. And then you work all day. And then at night, there was this really cool ceremonial thing with a fire. There was this Native American cultural stuff and full like headdresses and everything. And there's these, secret words and these different ritualistic kind of things that were all about just honoring the good, the best of the scouts. And I don't necessarily think I was one of those, but it was a pretty cool experience. And I think that's all trying to tie into like the roots of our development over the ages. And it was a pretty cool experience. So, but it doesn't have to be this outdoor thing, but how do men, at what point do men become men, and where do they get the approval of their elders to say, you buddy, you passed it? In this case, it was a handshake, or it was there were some Native American words and things that I still remember the words, but I don't remember what they mean. But, and it was kind of like this passing on, they put a sash on you, and kind of like, here's your new special badges or whatever and stuff like that. So, I think, some things out there exist. You think about Masons and some of these service organizations, Elks and whatever, and they've got, their funny things they wear in the parade and the little cars and whatever. But there's some brotherhood, and there are some things out there that exist, but we're so kind of disconnected. And that is probably the thing that I think is missing in this world the most, is the community of men.
Yeah.
And those kind of, rite of passage experiences.
So I guess, is that a time? So if you're to look back on your life and pinpoint, if you could pinpoint a couple of periods of your life or specific events where you feel like you're moving more into manhood, that transition, would that be one of those experiences? And do you have others that are like?
Yeah, probably. When I went to college, I lived in Florida, but I went to college in the state of Kentucky on a football scholarship. And so that was like leaving home, and, you're living in a dorm, so you're with other people, but kind of all strangers. And so that was an important one. I talked about serving a church mission, and that was kind of like, hey, walk away and you're not even going to really talk to your family or anybody for 2 years. You're not going to date. And there's some sacrifices and things you had to make at that point. That helped too, but I was far from being an adult man at that point.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, yeah, I'm doing this responsible stuff, but in college or on the mission, but it probably took, I always say I grew up when I was 38.
Wow. So what was that? What was that transition where you're like, I think I'm becoming a better man, or I don't know, how do I word that? Where you really feel that transition into manhood, like I'm doing man shit now.
I think it was, so after my divorce, I kind of plunged back into substance use and stuff like that, just trying to numb myself, and all the things I would tell my clients not to do, I pretty much did. But, heartbroken and whatever, going through divorce and just trying to pick up the pieces after that. And, alcohol sure was a good friend to me at that point. It seemed like, I thought it was. And when I was able to pull out of that for some time, I mean, I crashed all the way down to, bankruptcy, hospitalization. I was suicidal at one point. I was drinking and using drugs at the same time, and just like tripping out, and just took myself into the hospital. And I was afraid for my own life. I would just imagine myself. So here I am, a popular therapist in the Las Vegas area. I'm in a psych hospital with a 22-year-old intern running the group that I'm in.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you do? I was somewhat embarrassed, but I was glad to do that. I got on some medication and started some therapy, and, that kind of pulled me out of it. But it was probably as I emerged out of all that, I was able to quit drinking for 10 years or whatever in there. And then I just ruined myself. And then it was putting myself back together. And I think, with talking about girls become women in one day, I mean, that took me 20 years.
Right.
From when we think men are men, it wasn't really that way. And I was a good provider and I was doing all that stuff all along, but I just had no idea. I was super just in a, like, I just had tunnel vision, and whatever I was thinking was how it all was. So I ruined it all for myself, and just realizing that. And I was quite angry with my ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was just upset about the ending of that. Jumped in another relationship suddenly after that. But I started to realize that, I was part of the problem. It was in that marriage, so going from bitter and angry for a couple years after that, after my divorce, drinking it away, and then realizing, I wasn't the best. And that was a humbling thing that kind of, to me, and who taught me a lot of that was Taco Mike. He's done a lot of personal work, and he talks about himself like he's a dirtbag, and he's truly not, but he's just trying to maintain humility. And he taught me that it was okay to say, I'm kind of fucked up. And when I could start to say that stuff to people out loud, my friends or my family or whatever, tell the truth about what I'm doing, that kind of felt like that's probably where I hit some maturity, when I could really expose who I am, self-disclosure and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you think about like harder trials and transitions from boyhood to manhood in some like ritual stuff and whatnot. Like I always think about, first things that come to my mind are, Native American stuff. And I'm going to screw it up because I don't know that history really at all, but like stories you hear and you hear like you're 13, 14 years old and you go out in the desert on like peyote and have to like survive for a week,
Right.
So it seems like the correlation between that and the kind of struggle that you're talking about that brought you into feeling like you're maturing more as a man, comes down to struggle, like an extreme struggle, and being able to be humble yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you have to break yourself, kind of. You have to, it's almost like you have to kill the boy. You have to, and suffering will do that. If you're on peyote in the desert, that'll do that. If you're in the snow trudging around trying to find your way back after you killed some fat deer or whatever, like that'll do that. Hardship will do that to you. In my case, it was like just how my family kind of dissolved and trying to pick up pieces from that. So I kind of, the old me sort of died, and it wasn't a very conscious process, I guess. I mean, I'm looking back at that going, here's where I shifted in my thinking, but I didn't know I was doing it. I thought I was just like, all right, I better quit drinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of have to be ruined by the elements or the mountain or the animal or the life experience. And to me, it was like, oh boy, okay, I got a couple scars now.
Yeah. That's good. So I guess moving forward from that, what are some things now that, because, our struggles and our self-growth and becoming the most alpha version of yourself is a never ending process. What are some things right now that you are struggling with that you're trying to improve on?
So for me, I have this idealistic mind, so I have all the goals, I have all the plans, I have all the dreams and all the wishes for myself, health wise, working out, all those kind of things financially, but I'm not the best with discipline. And so I'm trying to force myself into things like I'm trying to trap myself into doing the right thing. And that sounds funny, but like, there was one time I had to get an alarm clock that would make you do math problems before you could shut it off. That way you're kind of woken up a little bit. So I'm not lazy by any means, but it's execution and discipline and those kind of things. So, I work out for 3 months at a time and then stop for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I get back around to it. And so I want to be able to handle my day better. There's a couple things that have kind of slipped in, like nicotine again, just got into some stress, and that, they say you revert to your like teenage behaviors. And that's what I was, at 15, I was addicted to nicotine already. So anyway, I'm not proud of that or not making excuses, but that kind of thing. And then diet, I'm like 280. I feel good that at one point I weighed 425.
Wow.
So, I had a weight loss surgery, but there's plenty of things I could do there. I just had a recent health scare. I was in the hospital
what happened with
Friday,
that?
Saturday, Sunday.
If you don't mind talking about it.
No, that's good. Yeah. So,
what happened with that?
I just was having trouble swallowing. So I've always had, acid. So I would just eat Tums. Like, you're only supposed to eat like 5 a day. I was eating like 5 at one time, just constantly, because I had this heartburn gas, like not gas. What is it called?
Gastric.
Yeah. GERD or whatever, the reflux. That's what it is. Reflux.
Yeah.
So, but I had heard that the medicine for that would give you some other side effect. And so I just said, I'll just try to eat right and whatever. So after years of doing that, I guess this acid was kind of like burning my esophagus a little bit. And I have a family history of a couple of disorders with that, including cancer, esophageal cancer. My uncle had his whole like esophagus taken out and his stomach is up here somewhere. But so I knew I was a little bit high risk and I had trouble swallowing. I just go in and they admitted me and scoped me the next morning and just did a biopsy in there. They kind of had to put a balloon and like stretch it out a little bit or something. And it was kind of collapsing. So my food wasn't going down. And I thought for sure, man, I've got cancer. I mean, I've abused my body too much. And so it was really kind of nice to hear it wasn't anything like that. So just a little, it's like a couple ulcers or whatever, and they stretched it out. I'm taking the medicine now. And so I just want to be more disciplined with really a few things. Finances. I envision the kind of thing where, seriously, man, talking about this, this tribal situation, I want to have a group of dudes that I pull up my bank statement and I don't care what you think of it. I just want your help with it. I want you to see what's happening, what I'm doing, help me think about things in a different way. So almost like a weigh in at a fat kids meeting, like I want to pull up on the screen. Here's my income and my expenses. Here's what I don't feel good about, and just for some accountability. So I want to be better with finances, fitness. As an athlete, I spent up to age probably like, I don't know, probably age 30, I was pretty active. And there's a pretty good body under there. And now that I know I don't have heart problems, because they just checked all my stuff, I feel like, okay, I got a few more years in me. So I want to get back in like movement, just preserve my energy a little bit. And then discipline with my family and my time with them. And, it's Sunday night, 8:00, prime time, husband and wife time or whatever, but I'm here and she goes to bed early. she's the oldest young lady you ever met. But, so just, planning to spending engaged time with my family, all the things in the Red 9, really. When I went through that, it was like, here's the stuff where I'm failing and a lot of other dudes are too. So just engagement. I want to be able to control my mood a little bit. I've done way better in the last few years, but I still get irritable. And now with nicotine again, if you're 12 minutes off of your rhythm on that, man, you're kind of pissy, So
yeah, definitely.
So those are family, fitness, and finances. Those are probably 3 things that I'm really trying to get figured out.
That's good. I want to get more into this Alpha Quorum thing. So you were just talking about the Red 9,
Mm-hmm.
and how I think it's interesting, and it makes a lot of sense that you came up with a lot of that stuff by reflecting, with self-reflection and things that you get to work on, and realizing that those are a lot of things that other guys probably get to work on as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super cool that, um, it's not just like a list of things you think everybody else needs to fix about themselves. It's you. That's that gives me a different understanding as a member of this thing, this tribe, to know that those aren't just those are things you came up with thinking about yourself and others. I think that's super cool. Diving more into the Alpha Quorum stuff, you put, I mean, you just mentioned you're here on Sunday night, 8 o'clock, and I've always, since the beginning of this whole thing, I've been impressed at the amount of time and energy you put into all this. Um, from the beginning, I know you were always editing the sound, and you'd show up early with the mics and set things up, and everybody would, not everybody, but other guys would leave or whatever, but you're cleaning up, and then you go home and you edit everything. And I just recognize, as I'm sure a lot of the people that are a part of this do, that you put a lot into this. And I'm wondering why. Why do you put so much effort and love and compassion and just all that stuff? Why do you put so much into this? What do you, I mean, obviously you get the group, you get the camaraderie, you get those things that you realize other men get to have in their lives, but that you're maybe lacking a little. So you're creating the thing that you're wanting. But why, what else do you get out of this?
So, man, I mean, just to start out with, it's probably half pathological. I mean, it's probably codependency. There's probably some, I don't know about narcissism, but there's probably some, like, this is a new addiction for me, kind of. And I remember hearing Taco Mike talk about going through the 12-step recovery process, and that when he started that kind of became his new addiction. Like he was going to be the best 12-stepper that ever lived. And so to me, it's like, all right, I'm not going to be a dirtbag anymore. So let me try to help dudes try to not be dirtbags. So I have a creative kind of side. So I started college actually as an art major. It's a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people, it's a little bit funny for people I was on a football scholarship and I was an art major. So anyway, I like the creative process. So this is all like, there's a ton of things to create and produce. There's gadgets, there's stuff to figure out, puzzles to put together, and you make it cool, make it sound cool and all that. So I like the creative part, but part of it may be just I'm running from something else. I mean, I guess it could be that. And I don't think that's what drives me, but I just want to acknowledge that somewhere it takes a little bit of sickness, I think, to do something like this. It's been 6 years, haven't made a dime, spent thousands of dollars on it, and 10 hours a week for 6 years. So, thousands of hours probably on this too. So why do I do it? I think it's because I figured some things out that I'm hoping to maybe prevent other people from having to learn the hard way. Or, I have 6 boys. So if someday at some point in their life they ever go back through this stuff, it's recorded out there on all the platforms, and I'm sure some of it will probably never go away. So I don't know. I like to teach. One of my coolest like career things that I've done was I taught at a university for 6 years in a master's program, and I walked in there scared to death the first day, and then it just became a real buzz for me to, like, figure out how to explain something difficult in simple terms and help people, have the light come on. So I like the teaching part of this. It keeps me busy. I don't know. I don't play golf. I don't fish near as much as you do or have other things like that. So I think it comes out of some like the former desperation that I felt with not having something like this. And honestly, an important influence for me was Ryan Mickler. So right about the time we started this, he's the Order of Man and the Iron Council guy, and I was in that group. And they booted me from it after 3 months or so. I missed one or two too many of the meetings, but anyway, so that that just kind of showed me that men are very interested in this kind of thing. I started doing some men's therapy groups. So I'm a therapist here in Vegas, and when I started, they said, "Oh, men aren't going to talk," and they sure did. And they came here, and I've got 5 of them. By the way, we got to count yours as the 6th Alpha Quorum. We got 6 groups. We'll call yours an AQ deal. How about that?
Yeah, I'm for it. Yeah.
Anyway, so then I started getting these guys together in groups of like 6. To me, that's about the perfect number. 6 plus me is 7. And seeing what they're doing, and it's like, okay. And then getting some feedback on the podcast, and just every now and then I've just wanted to quit because it's frustrating. This is not a side hustle that really gives me anything other than like, I feel good that I'm doing something with the talents that I have. I've got a creative talent. I like to teach. My wife goes to bed super early. My little kids are in bed early. My older kids don't want to hang out with me anyway. So like, this is the perfect spot for me, man, talking to dudes and just sharing, perspective. And some men will never go to a group, but they'll listen to a show like this, or,
right.
And they may pick something up. So plus I learn a lot, man. That was the coolest thing about when I was teaching at the university, is that I learned most of what I know about my field from teaching it. And so some of these topics, y'all, there are things that I need to learn personally or that I want to learn professionally. So I'll go study it. And so it keeps me alive, man. It's exactly the kind of thing that I think I was made to do. And it's part of that purpose. We were talking about purpose probably a couple of years ago. And I had, as part of that, the thing with Ryan Mickler's group, I created a purpose statement, which is basically that I provide peace, security, and enjoyment for my family and myself by, trying to live by good principles and teaching other people to do the same. So my whole purpose is figure out how to do life and help other people maybe figure out how to do life. So this is one avenue for that. And that's probably the driver, really.
Yeah. You get meaningful purpose out of this.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's great. I'm very appreciative of it. And I know for sure that a lot of other guys are. So, I could speak for myself, and I'm sure other people, that we appreciate you and what you've done, and all the work and time that you've put into it, and deciding not to quit. I know it's been up and down for you, and you hit spurts where, just like you were talking about with your working out, you're really on top of it for a little while, and then life gets busy and it dies off, but then you're back on top of it, really on top of it. And I think that the discipline, ideally discipline would be you're on top of something all the time, consistently, forever, right? But there is a discipline to coming back to it,
getting back on the wagon,
getting back to it. And you can't tell me that discipline doesn't play a factor in you continuing to do something for 6 years.
Yeah, I guess it's been spotty, but I do feel good about that. I mean, the last episode we had done before one recently was yours in December or January, whenever that was. And so 6 months went by with really nothing. And so yeah, I think I can feel good about that, coming back to it, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's been too long, and that's run out of steam." And I don't know. Maybe I'm just stubborn. Maybe I'm just hard headed.
No, I don't think it. I don't know. I think it's great. You just, again, you're not making you get satisfaction through purpose. I think with this, but yeah, this doesn't generate income. It costs you money, which, that's something I'm going to put some effort into, for this group, and anybody listening, please, look out for, I think we'll start a Patreon up so that we can help Brad out with some stuff, maybe getting somebody to help him with production stuff, or I don't know, we'll figure it out, but I think that'd be helpful.
All right, man. So I think we're going to wrap this up. Schofield he flipped the script on me, and he got interviewing me. I thought I was coming to check in with him, and appreciate you sharing that, your interest about my life and what led me to who I am. I haven't talked about that very much at all, really. And so just reflecting on that for a few minutes is helpful, and hopefully my kids will hear some of that at sometime too. But appreciate your being here, dude. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go.
All right.
If you're a man that controls his own destiny, a man that is always in the pursuit of being better, you are in the right place. You are responsible. You are strong. You are a leader. You are a force for good. Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.